Mr. Trevino, and he's running a little late today. Mr. Henderson, members of the board, this evening, we do have students here to help lead us in the pledge and here to introduce us to our students is the proud principal of Rancho Verde Elementary, Mrs. Mary Chavez. Mrs. Chavez.
Thank you, thank you. Welcome everyone to Rancho Verde Elementary. Board members, we have two students today that you should know. We start off with Amanda Rivas. Amanda is a fourth grade student in Miss Barrientos' class. Her teacher says Amanda is an excellent role model for other students. She is kind, sweetie. Shake hands. There you go. She is an excellent role model for other students. She is kind, hardworking, and self-motivated. Amanda competed in District EAE this past Saturday and earned first place in number sense. She competed at the state chess tournament also this weekend and helped her team win a fourth place finish and placed 15th herself individually. Outside of school, Amanda is involved in drum classes and piano lessons. Her favorite subject in school is math. And when she grows up, she'd like to be a drummer or a librarian. Another star student of Rancho Verde that you should know is Mr. Hector Garza. Hector is also a fourth grade student in Miss Perales' class. His teacher says that what makes Hector special is that he is an active learner, helpful, and a great peer tutor. Hector competed at the District EAE on Saturday and actually tied Amanda for first place in number sense. So that was a very unique situation and very exciting, a boy and a girl, and from the same school. And their teammate got third place, so we swept that one, so good job, kids. Just had to throw that in. All right, Hector also competed at the state chess tournament on this weekend, and he helped his team earn the fourth place finish. So outside of school, Hector is involved in Taekwondo. He's been involved in soccer and Little League as well. His favorite subject in school is also math, and when he grows up, he'd like to be a doctor or a nurse.
So last week we talked about scheduling a meeting here. It's part of our board operating procedures to take special called meetings to different areas of the district. We didn't know when we scheduled this meeting here that Rancho Verde would go on to win Saturday's elementary academic event. First place goes out to Rancho Verde. Let's give the school a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, these children are here to help lead us in the pledge. Will everyone please rise for the pledge?
Indivisible.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. You may be seated. Thank you. The proud parents of our two students here, if they are, would you please rise so we can acknowledge you? Thank you so much. You should be very proud of your children. We appreciate it. Mr. Castillo, will you go ahead and complete roll call?
I'm going to make sure we check if somebody signed in or not.
Yes, sir, Mr. Henderson. Mr. Ruben Trevino is running a little bit late. Mr. Donald Henderson,
Present.
I am here. Martin Castillo. Mr. Jesus Amaya is unavailable to attend. Ms. Sandra Garcia.
Present.
Ms. Leticia Quintero.
Present.
Mr. Juan Sierra.
Present.
Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Gonzalo Salazar.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Dr. Salazar, it looks like we don't have anyone who signed up for public comment. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, item number 6, Dr. Salazar, presentations.
So, Mr. Henderson, members of the board, this evening we started showcasing some of our student talent and telling you a lot about our students. We have a little bit more talent to showcase this evening. Mrs. Sponsler has been a music teacher in Los Fresnos for a little while, a lot of years. And we're fortunate to have her leading the music program here at Rancho Verde. She's here to introduce us to a few students. Mrs. Sponsler, you care to frame this for us, please?
Sure. These are some of our students here at Rancho Verde
I have a loud voice, I don't think I need. And in fourth and fifth grade, we do a lot of what we call ensemble work, learning how to play pieces of music together where they all have different parts that they play. This is a piece we worked on last month in class, and when we learn a piece, everybody learns every part. So that if we have a performance and some students don't show up, we can move people around and they all know all the parts. So the first piece we're going to do is called Ding Dong Diggy Diggy Dong, and it's about a cat that escapes and doesn't come back. And it's an instrumental piece, it does not have words. And here's another of our performers. Go to your spot. So, and then after we do that, we'll have a quick little transition where we're going to do a piece on drums. So first of all, we'll do our piece on the bars for you.
It's not normal.
So Sebastian, go ahead and play the bass part. And everybody join him on the bass part. Ready? Just the bass part, the C, D, E, G. Ready? And C, D, E, G. C, D. Ready? And then our basses, okay, stop. And then our basses have this part. So this was the part they layered in. Ready? And stop. And then our melody had this part. Ready? And And then our last little part, which was maybe a little harder to hear, but was a colorful part, is starting on the E. Ready? And stop. So that was all the different parts that they learned to put together for that piece. Okay, so now you're going to get up. And remember how we slide our instruments back when we get ready to do something with the drums. And then come and get your drum, and we'll put it in a U, and then you'll get your chairs. Okay? This piece that we're going to do on drums comes from a book called World Drumming, and the name of it is just Ensemble Number 1. Not a very colorful name.
So the reason for the microphone is because we're required to record our board meetings. And so if you have a bad angle tonight, this performance is being recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel at lfcisd.net. So you'll be able to see that performance. This is a piece we actually did in the fall.
maybe in October, so it's been a while. So when I pulled these students to help me, I said, do you remember that piece? And they were like, we're not sure. So we played it a few times and they were right back with it. So here we go.
I'll leave it to you to thank Mrs.
Thank you so much, students. That was outstanding. We really enjoyed that presentation. Ms. Sponsler, we appreciate you making time. We enjoyed this, the presentation from the students. We look forward to another one next year. And Ms. Chavez, thank you for opening up your school to us. We appreciate it. For this special school board, we know it takes a lot of work, so thank you. Parents, we know you all made an effort to allow your children to participate. We are going to continue with the regular school board meeting, and it may be a little bit lengthy. We know it's a school night. You need to get home probably for prepare dinner or go relax. So feel free to stay if you like, or you may be excused and go on home. We'll just take a minute here. And in that, I'm going to go and turn it over. We'll note that Mr. Trevino is here, and I'm going to turn over the meeting to Mr. Trevino.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I appreciate the announcement. I'm sorry I didn't catch all of that. It sounded really good there, and so a lot of hard work, I'm sure, has gone into that presentation and that performance, so really appreciate it. And we do mean it, parents, if you need to take off and get dinner going and homework started, we completely understand. If not, it is a riveting meeting, and so I can guarantee it. So apologies again for showing up late. The 2-year-olds that I work with and their parents were not cooperating with me this afternoon, and it just made it really difficult for me to be here on time. Apologies again to all of my board members and to you all. Okay, we are going on with the agenda for today. We are in Roman numeral 6, overview of board operating procedures. Dr. Salazar.
Mr. Trevino and members of the board, this evening, we placed an item on the agenda for board approval. In keeping with our board operating procedures, we are reviewing this document tonight. Again, you'll see we're going to come across the page where we are required to review it at least once a year. Some of the practices that are listed here were suspended, obviously, during the pandemic, so it's really good to revisit our board operating procedures for this purpose. I will tell you that you won't see any red ink anytime we make revisions on our board book, on our board operating procedures. We'll bring them to you for adoption. But there isn't any new information in here. The way this is laid out is every section has a subtitle, and at the bottom of every page in our board operating procedures, we list the board policies, the date when it was last revised, and we list the applicable board policies. So we start with the preface, the preface of the board operating procedures. Mentioned that contained in this guide, this is a guide, is a set of agreed upon steps and statements that define how we, as a team, school board and superintendent, are to handle and respond to school matters associated with the fulfillment of our roles. Then it goes on to say that having these procedures in place, these written procedures in place communicate expectations and bring clarity to how we're going to operate. And then the final paragraph there talks about how we should review these periodically, at least once a year. Board meetings, how we hold our board meetings the second Monday of the month at 6 p.m. at the boardroom on Highway 100. We can have special called meetings as we're having here tonight. Sometimes between regular board meetings, there is a need to, sometimes items are time sensitive, and today is an example of how all of you were very accommodating and allowed administration to set an agenda for a special called meeting for one of the items that we have here tonight. You see under number 3, that last sentence, it says, one boarding meeting per year shall be held at one of the schools on the southwest portion of the district, and another one at Las Yescas, which would be the other bookend for us on the north side of the district near Rio Hondo. If you turn the page, now we can get into board agendas. Under item 2, it says that you will find that each board member has a right to place an item on the agenda, and no other board member nor the superintendent can remove that items. Item 3 says that items may be submitted by a board member in written form and no longer than the time established in board policy. Board policy says our practice is to put out board packets on a Thursday, so any submission for an item on the agenda has to be timely, so that we can post an agenda in compliance with the law, with the open meetings law. So item 4 says additional information concerning an item on the agenda if you want additional information on any item on the agenda, you can contact the board president or the superintendent. And I know that all of you, we do that all the time. This is common practice. On the next page, you see if a board member, thank you, Ms. Canales, I lost track of the slides. If a board member desires additional information concerning an item on the agenda, again, check with the board president or the superintendent, and information not related to agenda items shall be requested from the superintendent. We move on to communication among board members and superintendent. In 2010, our board was named the State Honor Board. We've had little turnover on our board and a lot of harmony, a lot of unity on our board, and we attribute that to communication, in part the board operating procedures, but each of you have demonstrated a very pleasant disposition and communication. We have always been very formal and very cordial with one another. But there's another piece to communication. There should be no category of privileged information between any board member or a member of the team. All information needs to be shared with everyone equally, and we pride ourselves in doing just that. Care should be exercised as to not to violate the Open Meetings Act, though we cannot be so passionate about sharing information that we violate the Open Meetings Act. And so sometimes the information goes out one way in the form of an update to the board, a text message of something that is occurring in real time, because we don't want you blindsided by anything. But information related to substance. Sometimes the information comes from board members to administration. And so information relating to one of the following situations might become a media issue, or one of us may have to deal with a situation when you don't want administration blindsided by anything, and we don't want to blindside our board by anything. So any issue dealing with student safety, staff safety, or the safety on school property, situations that could result in legal action against the board, against the school district, or issues addressing fiscal matters reflecting negatively on the district, any of those concerns must be shared in the most expeditious way possible, and that applies both to administration and to the board. So we're going to skip over. There's more details there about communication, but it is not my intention to read every item on the agenda. So I'm going to skip over to section D. Again, for those of you in the audience, the board received this packet on Thursday, and they've had an opportunity to review it. But I want to continue to touch on some highlights. Requests for additional information. Short answers, sometimes a phone call, sometimes a text message. That's not uncommon for us to communicate that way. But board members may contact the superintendent or the board president to get those short answer questions. Additional information that is readily available in the district, within the district, board members are to notify the superintendent of the specific request, and then an appropriate amount of time is negotiated on how much time we need. It is better to say, it's better for a superintendent to say, let me research that than to give misinformation. And so sometimes let me make a couple of phone calls and I'll have to call you back. If the requested information is deemed to not be readily available, then a satisfactory timeline needs to be established for the communication of that information that's being requested. And one thing that we do want you to note is section C. Board members have an inherent right to request information. There's a Attorney General opinion that says that you, as the overseers of the operations of the school district, have an inherent right to information. So never feel like you cannot request information. It just needs to be in a timely manner, and so that it's not cumbersome and takes away from our focus of operating a school, our schools. A board member in his or her official capacity is to notify the board president about his or her request to view district records. You can even view district records, but you must go through this process that we have agreed on in these guidelines to inform the board president of the need, why you need to see certain records, but you do have access to them. The superintendent then shall make these records available for viewing to the board member in a timely manner. And then item 3, additional information that doesn't exist and requires additional time and research. There's 2 ways to handle that. Request must be placed in a written form before the board at its next scheduled meeting to determine the entire board's desire for directing the superintendent for the requested information. And if the board determines that the request is to be honored, it will appropriate enough time to compile those reports. Contacts and visits to campuses. We have agreed that we will operate in the following manner. The board members are encouraged to attend as many school events as their time permits, and that board members may visit any campus after first advising the superintendent of the purpose for the visit and checking in at the main campus office. Appointments may be set. Board members may informally interact with any staff member or student during these free lunch periods, during free periods, including lunch and recess. And board members shall not go unannounced to any district building or classroom. As a board member, as board members, we have, you have a authority as a body corporate. As individuals, you are citizens, you are elected officials, but the authority is when you are sitting in this body here. So the reason the board agreed to item 4 is because inevitably staff members still see you as an elected official, a trustee, and so we want to be able to know. We want to know when you're going to be on campus so that we can inform principals that you will be making a visit. A board member may not give advice or direction to any staff member or student except when safety or liability is an issue, and you must immediately notify the superintendent shortly thereafter. I've covered a lot of ground. Let me pause here to see if anyone has any questions or comments.
Any questions from the board so far? No? No
Okay.
questions.
Section E6, while members of the board have no authority as individuals, it is sometimes difficult for staff members to see them as ordinary parents. Therefore, when visiting with teachers of their own children, board members will make it clear that they are acting as parents rather than as members of the board. You do not shed your rights as a parent. So, but stating up front, I'm here in the role of a parent. I'm not here as a trustee. I just would like to check on my child's progress. That is absolutely acceptable. Board members will not request nor accept extraordinary consideration for their students. And when a family member of one of our board members contacts or visits a campus, district procedures will be followed. Again, all the applicable policies are at the bottom of that page. Correspondence, sometimes we get the correspondence of a public nature, school business, addressed to the board, and we shall handle it as follows. If the correspondence is received by the district, the board president shall be informed as soon as possible, depending on the importance of the matter. So from time to time, we'll get an anonymous letter, and depending on the subject matter, if it's an issue of safety, of course, we look at it right away, but at every opportunity, we'll inform the board president. And if the board president is not available, then we follow protocol. We go to the vice president and make sure that you have received notice of this correspondence. If the president of the board receives the official correspondence addressed to the board, the president shall inform the superintendent of the nature of the correspondence received, and then the board president shall use his or her judgment in determining the extent of the details that the correspondence is going to be released to the superintendent. In other words, if the notification you're getting is about the actions of the superintendent, then you might want to keep some of that close to the vest as the board president and ask all the right questions. Correspondence of a public nature addressed to the board, again, continues here. Anonymous correspondence, which is not personally signed, dated, or without a confirmed return address sent to the Board of Trustees, shall be handled as follows. The board president or the superintendent, as appropriate, shall disregard or follow up on the information using discretion, of course. This type of correspondence will be handled pursuant to school district policy and statutes. Anytime that we have received correspondence that meets the criteria described here, we contact legal gives advice, contact the board president, and we follow the advice of legal. And I mean, when I say every time that happens. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often. The board has agreed to the following parameters on board travel. This section G is a little bit of a misnomer because the only time that the board travels is in connection with required board training. Each of you are required to have a certain number of training hours, and those depend on your level of experience, how many years you've been on the board. So first-year trustees will have the option to attend 2 state, 2 local, and 1 national conference. If the national conference provides TASB CEC credits, continuing education credits, that's what that stands for. Experienced board members will have an opportunity to attend 1 local, 2 state, and 1 national conference if the national conference provides TASB CEC approved credits. A board member may attend a local conference in lieu of a state conference in lieu of a national conference. Sometimes there are schedule conflicts, but you will have multiple opportunities to fulfill your requirements as trustees to get training. We're in a legislative year right now. Sometimes information comes out the year after soon after the legislature meets. So there are instances in which you want to choose local or state conferences over national conferences, and sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes a national conference is going to be more informative, depending on what issues either the Department of Ed or TEA has been dealing with. On the notes, you see there, a local reference is one of the, a local conference. Sometimes there are conferences that are held on South Padre Island. Well, we don't go stay on the island because we live so close, whereas trustees from other parts of the state sometimes go stay there. And we have agreed as trustees that those are not overnight stays for us. Per diems will be giving at the state rate. We know you incur expenses. You are public servants. You don't draw a salary, although that's people, sometimes average person doesn't know that, but you serve and you sacrifice, but we do make sure to make you whole, and per diems are given at the state rate. A board member shall complete an official board travel request from each travel, and you see there that once you commit to attending a conference, if you don't attend, there is a deadline for the district to receive credit. Otherwise, you may be responsible, you will be responsible for that expense. Addressing violations of board operating procedures. The board president will address violations of board operating procedures and policies by trustee by meeting with that individual trustee. So if anybody ever steps outside of these guidelines, it is the role of the board president to say, hey, can we sit down and have coffee, or can we meet and let's talk, let's review some of our procedures. I know we haven't had to do that, but it is part of the role of the board chair. I'll pause there and see if anyone has questions yet.
Any questions so far? No? No, sir.
The next item is on how we communicate with the media. And it has been, a practice, a long-standing practice in Los Fresnos that only the board president addresses the media. All other trustees defer to the board president. The board president may defer to another member of the board, but our practice is to defer to the board president. The board president sometimes defers to the superintendent, depending on the issue. So when dealing with complaints from the community, in section J, you are encouraged to listen to concerns from community members, to demonstrate sensitivity to concerns, to refer the complaint to the lowest level. If it's about something that's happening in the classroom, have you spoken to the teacher? Have you spoken to the principal? And if the answers are yes, and that community member is still struggling, then the superintendent. But our first step should be refer them. Most of the time, when you hear a concern for the first time, they haven't spoken to the teacher, or they've not spoken to the principal, and we need to give them an opportunity to do so. Board members shall share the concern with the superintendent, and the superintendent and then shall inform the board of what was done to resolve the issues. Those are our board operating procedures. They have served us well, and we have them on the agenda. We have them on the agenda tonight for adoption, as there's one action item with this item. So is there anything here that you think needs to be revised before we adopt them?
Any revisions to be considered from any board member? As Dr. Salazar said, they've served us well. I think they keep us out of trouble and allow us to operate efficiently, effectively within our roles. So, if you ever have any questions, feel free to call me, let me know. Dr. Salazar is always available as well, so I think we're good.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Those are all the presentations we have, sir.
All right, so we're moving on to action items. Number 7, discuss and take action to approve resolution authorizing Cameron Appraisal District's chief appraiser or other employee of CAD to act as agent in regard to filing a protest against the Comptroller's 2022 property value study for Los Fresnos Consolidated School District. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Board President, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve that resolution authorizing the Cameron Appraising District Chief Appraiser or other employee of CAD to act as an agent in regarding to the filing of protest against the Comptroller's 2022 property value study for the Los Fresnos CISD.
Thank you, Mr. Sierra. Do I have a second? Anybody? Mr. Henderson? Have a second? Any discussion on the action item? There being no discussion, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of taking action to approve resolution authorizing Cameron County Appraisal District's chief appraiser or other employee of CAD to act as agent in regard to filing a protest against the Comptroller's 2022 property value study for Los Fresnos CISD, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. 6-0. That's right, right? 6-0. Number 2, discuss and take action to award agreements or contracts for CSP number 22-23-25, Child Nutrition Services, Dining Furniture, and Decor to EduSource Corporation. Do I have a motion? Mr. Castillo,
Motion to approve, sir.
have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Juan Sierra.
Mr. Sierra seconds. Any discussion? There being no discussion to this item, all those in favor of awarding agreement contracts for CSP 22-23-25 Child Nutrition Services, Dining Furniture, and Decor to EduSource Corporation, please raise your hand. It is unanimous, 6-0. Action item passes. Number 3, discuss and take action to approve the agreement contract for the HVAC commissioning services for Resaca Middle School to Ethos Engineering. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Board President, I'll move to accept action item number 3. Take
Mr.
it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Sierra. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Castillo will second it. Any discussion? No discussion. Then all those in favor to approve the agreement contract for the HVAC commissioning services for Resaca Middle School to Ethos Engineering, please raise your hand. Action item passes unanimously, 6-0. Number 4, discuss and take action to award agreement contract for the Los Fresnos CISD Agricultural and Vocational Complex Project Phase 1, Part 2 to co-op vendor C&A Builders. Do I have a motion? Ms. Garcia?
Sir, I move to award the agreement or contract for the Los Fresnos CISD Agricultural and Vocational Complex Project Phase 1, Part 2, to co-op vendors C&A Builders.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Quintero. Seconds. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor of awarding agreement or contract for the Los Fresnos CISD Agricultural and Vocational Complex Project Phase 1, Part 2 to co-op vendor C&A Builders, please raise your hand. Action item passes unanimously, 6-0. Number 5, discuss and take action to ratify the Texas State Technical College Memorandum of Understanding MOU for the CTE dual enrollment programs for the 23-24 school year. Do I have a motion? Ms. Quintero.
Yes, I motion to discuss and take action to ratify the Texas State Technical College Memorandum of Understanding MOU for CTE dual enrollment programs for the 2023-2024 school year.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Henderson, any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor of ratifying the Texas State Technical College Memorandum of Understanding MOU for CTE dual enrollment programs for the 2023-2024 school year, please raise your hand. It is unanimous, 6-0. Action item passes. Number 6, Discuss and take action to approve out-of-state student travel. A, LFHS Gear Up College Ready Midwest College Tour, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois, March 12th through the 16th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Ms. Garcia.
Yeah, I move to approve the out-of-state student travel for the Los Brazos High School Gear Up College Ready program to the Midwest College Tour in March.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Sierra seconds. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor of approving LFHS Gear Up College Ready out-of-state student travel to Midwest College Tour, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois on March 12th through the 16th, 2023, please raise your hand. Action item passes unanimously 6-0. The last item, discuss and take action to approve the board operating procedures. Do I have a motion?
Motion
Mr.
to
Castillo?
Approve board operating procedures, sir.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'm going to go with Ms. Garcia. Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor of approving the board operating procedures as discussed tonight, please raise your hand. It is unanimous, 6-0. Brings us to announcements. Dr. Salazar.
Mr. Trevino, members of the board, on the week of March 13th through the 17th, we'll suspend normal operations for our spring break. And then on March 20th, as soon as we get back, we have our regular school board meeting. This time, we're back at the boardroom. Those are all the announcements we have at this time, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Salazar. It is, what's the official time? 6:46, and I adjourn this meeting.